Hello guys, and welcome to my build update number 2 for the Airfix 148 Supermarine Spitfire Mk.Vb. This is kit number A05125. At build update number 1 I'd got the plane built up, primed, pre-shaded, ready for painting. So in this stage we're going to cover masking, painting, decaling, weathering and final assembly. So first off, I painted some silver onto the propeller spinner and blades for chipping later. I then went to the underside of the aircraft, airbrushed the sky green on there, toned it down with white. Then I toned it down a little bit more with white, put some highlights on, and then I sealed it all in with a gloss varnish. Next I started to make my masks, so I measured the width of the wingspan of the model, the width of the wingspan on the painting instructions, and I divided the large number by the smaller number. I then got a scale factor of 1.7. I then blew up the print of the painting instructions by 1.7 and created masks of each of the views. I then cut those views out and cut out the different camouflage colours and separated the darker camouflage sections from the lighter camouflage sections. And then because I wanted to paint the light colour first, I then applied the darker camo pattern maskings to the aircraft. Once they were taped in place, I then airbrushed the dark earth onto the exposed areas, and I then toned that dark earth down with some white to create some highlights, as you can see in the next couple of views. And when that had dried, I applied a gloss clear coat to seal that colour in. And when the gloss clear coat was dry, I removed the masks and took a couple of pictures, checked out how that paintwork looked, and I thought it looked okay. Allowing it to dry thoroughly, I got on with the wheels and painted the wheel parts and assembled the wheels onto the olio struts. And then I went back to masking the plane, masking over what I'd previously painted, and then I painted on the sea grey colour, which is like a blue grey, and I mixed a couple of paints, a field blue with a sea grey, and painted that on, and then I toned that down with some white and did highlights. And after that had dried, I took off the masks, took a few pictures, see how it looked. Paintwork looked pretty good to me. So the next thing to do was to apply a gloss varnish onto that sea grey blue colour I'd painted. And when that was dried, I took a couple of pictures again to see how it looked and thought it was looking okay. I then painted the propeller black, put the yellow tips on, did a little bit of chipping and then clear coated it, and then everything was ready for decaling. So I got everything together: decals, tweezers, toothpick, cotton buds, scalpel, brush, water and decal setting solution, and made a start on decaling. So first off I did the port side wing, applied those decals, then I moved to the other side and applied the decals to the starboard side wing. Then it was on to the fuselage, starting with the port side, and then moved over to the starboard side, applied the decals on that. Then there was a couple of little decals on top of the fuselage that I applied, and then I flipped the plane over, applied the starboard side decals on the underside, followed by the port side underside decals. The last few on the plane were on the horizontal stabilizers and then elevator, and then all I had left was decals to apply to the propeller to finish that stage off. Next then was to seal all those decals in, and some of the peripheral parts that I'd painted with a clear coat. And I did that. Then it was on to the weathering stage. So the first thing I did was, using aluminum paint, I applied some chipping here and there where there was some natural wear and tear, and then I wanted to scuff up the large decals with a file so that they look worn and torn and weathered and faded later on after the weathering stage. So the first part of the weathering was washes, was the dark wash, mixing black and white oil paint with mineral spirits, and then I applied that wash all over the airplane, top and bottom. Let it dry for 30 minutes, then I wiped it off with kitchen roll and Q-tips in the direction of airflow. I then wanted to add a bleach wash, so I mixed some white and applied that all over the plane, wiped that off, and applied it to the propeller on wheels as well, and then wiped that off with kitchen roll and Q-tips, again in the direction of airflow, just to give some bleaching. And then next thing I did was I went over the panel lines again with a panel line pin wash, just to darken them up a bit more. And then after I was happy with that, I mixed a reddish brown wash to do some streaks, stains, and put some inside the panel lines to add a tonal variation to everything. And there's some oil stains streaking on the underside of the fuselage. And then I did the same thing to the propeller, and then everything was sealed in with a final matte clear coat. So when that final matte clear coat was dry, it was on to putting exhaust stains onto the plane. So I mixed some dark earth with black to make a dark brown sort of black colour, airbrushed that at the gun ports, and then I did it at the side of the exhaust. And then I thinned down some deck tan and applied that to the exhaust stains to simulate lead deposits. Next thing I did was unmask the canopies and the cockpit, pulled out all the tissue, and then I glued the propeller in place. Then I removed the door and glued that in the open position. Then flipped the plane over, removed the masks, the liquid mask from the lens, light lens there, and then applied a dirt wash to the inside of the wheel wells that I'd just removed from the wheel wells, and inside the wheel wells, dirtied them up, and then it was on to assembling the wheels, and there's the wheels now assembled to the doors, the undercarriage doors, and there they are assembled in place. I just super glued them, they worked fine, so I didn't have to do anything special. And there's the rear wheel, that just pressed in place, no glue at all. That was a nice press fit. And following that, I fitted the aerial mast, and then I put the canopy in the open position, glued that in place. I then made a little mounting point on the rudder there, carved that out of a bit of plastic because I broke the original one off. And following that, I put the light lens in, and after the light lens was glued, I glued the pitot tube into place, and then it was on to putting the decals onto the cockpit door, and there they are in position. So one of the last things to do was to apply the easy line to simulate the radio antenna cable. There it is mounted at the mast, from the fuselage up to the mast. Let that set, then I stretch the length over to the rear part of the plane, to the rear rudder mounting post, and super glued that in place. The last thing to do was apply that little rear view mirror, and that was it. Everything done, all assembly done, ready to go on to the final reveal. So the final reveal will be the next video that I release. That will be in a few days time, so hope you stick around and watch that. Thanks for watching this, for those who have, and for those that have followed this build, thanks again for all your comments, it's greatly appreciated. And until the next video, the final update, happy modelling guys, have fun, and I'll see you then. Tally-o and chocks away.